Chapter 47:14. They saw that the person who originally attacked the world group's youngsters but was blocked by an Ruopan. Because of the blazing flames, she was twisting and struggling in pain. Tong Ziqing. Was Tong Ziqing. Earlier, it was because of Tong Ziqing that the world group couldn't bear to hurt Tong Ziqing, which gave Tong Ziqing the chance to break the barrier which Mo Yuing had conjured. Because of that, the scene just now happened. The world group's youngsters' hearts were heavy and complicated. They totally didn't know what kind of attitude they should use to face Tong Ziqing. That was like a wild beast, cold and bloodthirsty, without any emotions in her eyes, towards their friendship. It really made those who had once gone through life and death with Tong Ziqing, worshipping Tong Ziqing as their goddess before Yiqing Luo appeared, to follow them wholeheartedly. Their hearts were in an extreme pain. But when they saw Tong Ziqing suffering from the blazing flames, that kind of pain and contortion as though they would be burnt to ashes in the next instance, their inner hearts were burning with anxiety and suffering. Thinking about it, Yiqing Luo's current state was absolutely not any better than them. And at this moment there were quite a number of cultivators around who were shouting loudly, "Burn them to death! Don't stop this flame. This flame is used to deal with their schemes." Imperial Madam, that lady is obviously not an ordinary person. Even if you show her mercy, she won't be able to come back. Why not settle her as soon as possible in case you guys get hurt? There were some cultivators who were quick-witted as they tried to reason and move them emotionally. Imperial Madam, and everyone, we know it's really difficult for you to make such a decision. But have you ever thought that if that lady was conscious, would she be willing to live like this, to hurt you guys? Needless to say, this sentence stabbed right into the world group's hearts. If it was any of them, they would absolutely not be willing to become enemies with their own brothers. They would rather die before they were poisoned by the goo. And they would absolutely not be willing to become a monster who hurt their own brothers. Just like earlier. An Ruopan's decision. If it was any one of them, they would also choose the same. So, Tong Ziqing was the same. Tong Ziqing was conscious now. Seeing so many of her brothers being hurt, her heart would definitely be in even more pain than them right now. Gloomy palace. Everyone in the world group clenched their fists tightly as a venomous look surfaced in their eyes. It was all because of the dark nether palace, playing with their sincerity and true feelings. If they couldn't destroy the palace of darkness, what a waste of humanity. At this moment, an unwavering goal emerged in the hearts of the young boys and girls. Their words were heard by Yiqing Luo. Chapter 47:15. Gu Jingyu's cold laughter was extremely clear in his ears, as though it had penetrated through Yiqing Luo's head, which was about to explode. It made her emotions even more chaotic. A pair of long and coquettish eyes were covered with a scarlet-red glow. Wisps of profound energy encircled the young lady's body, as though the profound wave was overflowing from her body. It was boiling. Gu Jingyu's attack was very fast. But under Gu Jingyu's attack, Yiqing Luo's mind was still very fast, like a movie playback. The scenes flashed past the first time she met Gu Jingyu, after he became the palace lord of secluded darkness palace. All sorts of scenes. Finally, it stopped on the man's handsome face, giving her a warm smile. From today onwards, there's no more connection between you and me. I'm using this method to force myself to give up. If you can't be with me, then don't give me any hope. Yiqing Luo, I don't want you to be soft-hearted towards me, to show mercy to me. Every word reverberated in her mind. Yiqing Luo's head was swollen as she moaned in pain. Her slender hand pressed against her head. In her mind, she seemed to see a white light, constantly attacking her emotions. And in front of her, Gu Jingyu's attack was already nearing her face. She subconsciously raised the feather fan in her hand. The profound wave was like a huge dragon, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it charged towards Gu Jingyu. Bam! The deafening profound wave shook and the battlefield collapsed once again. Gu Jingyu didn't expect Yiqing Luo to really retaliate. He couldn't avoid it in time. He was directly sent flying by that profound wave. The thick, black, eviline energy was defeated. The intense pain made his chest stuffy as he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Gu Jingyu half-propped himself up as he raised his head, looking at the red-robed figure standing on the back of the scarlet flame. He slowly raised his hand and wiped off the blood stains on his lips. The corners of his lips curled into a sinister sneer. Finally, you're willing to take action against me. He slowly stood up. His tall and slender figure swayed a little. But he quickly steadied himself. His face was filled with ridicule. Looks like you've made up your mind. The girl did not answer his question. He stood on Qi Yan's back with a cold expression on his face. Boundless profound ripples lingered around her body, making her seem even more otherworldly, like a celestial maiden that was out of reach. She lowered her eyes. He looked down at Gu Jingyu. There was not the slightest fluctuation in her charming eyes. Gu Jingyu's heart suddenly skipped a beat. No, that's not right. This was not Yiqing Luo. How could Yiqing Luo possibly reveal such an expression towards him? Just now, she still had a pained expression on her face, unable to make a decision. Just, what was going on? Gu Jingyu. The girl's voice was clear, and her eyes were as calm as water. She jumped down from Qi Yan's back. The profound waves that were set off actually enveloped the entire battlefield. He controlled the witchcraft Gu on the spot, unable to move at all. It was so powerful that it was suffocating. All the advantages that he had been relying on just now had completely collapsed at this instant. The expression on Gu Jingyu's face froze, and a vicious look appeared in his eyes. As a deal, you once raised a request to me. The young girl's words were transmitted into his ears. If we meet again, we'll be strangers. So, in my eyes, you're only the palace lord of secluded palace, my enemy? The young girl's tone was very calm, as though she had thought through something. There wasn't any ripple on her face. She strolled leisurely towards Gu Jingyu. Every step she took seemed as though she was stepping on everyone's heart on the battlefield. But they didn't dare to open their mouths to break the strange atmosphere. Chapter 47:16. The current Yiqing Luo looked too strange. Like a god who looked down on all living beings. Looking down on the world. The bright and beautiful red dress danced wildly in the strong wind. It accentuated the young lady's exquisite brows, which sunk into astonishment. Even the world group's hearts were pounding wildly from the young lady's aura. You. Gu Jingyu also realized the coldness and indifference in the young lady's tone. His brows creased tightly. An unfamiliar emotion suddenly arose in his heart. As though someone was clutching his heart tightly. It made him feel a suffocating heavy feeling. Could it be that Yiqing Luo had done something to him? Why did he feel so uncomfortable looking at the young lady's calm and indifferent look? Gu Jingyu's breathing congealed. He forced himself to calm down. He gazed at the young lady's enchanting profound light, as well as that cold and resolute attitude, as though he had thought of something. That seemingly gentle, yet sinister face suddenly laughed. Following that, she laughed sinisterly. I've not expected that this empress can actually force you to lose your rationality. Does this mean that this empress actually holds an important position in your heart? Lost her rationality? The world group's brows creased tightly as they stared at Gu Jingyu and asked sternly, what do you mean by this? Ha ha ha, your Madame Qing Luo, because of the dilemma between the world and righteousness, was unable to make a choice. Hence the surging profound energy in her body caused her to collapse. Gu Jingyu didn't hide anything as his gloomy voice was filled with an eerie smile as he explained, she's indeed a rare genius. Even under such a situation, she didn't lose control of her profound energy, causing her meridians to break down. On the contrary, it prompted her to advance. Advancement. The world group's expressions turned uglier by the minute. Advancement was a good thing. But hearing Gu Jingyu's meaning. Apparently Yiqing Luo's advancement this time round was absolutely not for any benefits. Furthermore, what was the loss of control and losing her rationality that Gu Jingyu mentioned? Although the current Yiqing Luo looked a little strange. But it was still very normal. Gu Jingyu's eyes were gloomy as he said word by word, as a cultivator, you should be very clear about profound great advancement. After the advancement, you need to expend energy to merge the advanced profound energy with your body. But Yiqing Luo's sudden advancement was due to the stimulation. And under the stimulation, I didn't have any time to adjust the power after my advancement, nor did I have the time to merge with the surging Xian energy in my body. Say, what do you think will be the final result after the body is filled to the brim with endless energy? At this moment, it wasn't only the world group whose faces were pale. Even those cultivators on the battlefield had their faces turned pale, as the gazes they shot towards Yiqing Luo were filled with terror and terror. This is the consequence. It was just as Gu Jingyu had said. Ordinary profound practitioners would have their tendons and meridians severed, their bodies exploding, and they would die. Or worse, qi deviation and loss of sanity if Yiqing Luo went into qi deviation. That's indifference. Wouldn't they have one more powerful opponent? The expressions of the world group turned ugly. No wonder Gu Jingyu patiently explained to them. They wanted to throw the morale of their troops into chaos. The current Yiqing Luo, I'm afraid it's her willpower that is supporting her. Gu Jingyu's lips curled into an evil smile as he slowly raised his hand. The sinister chi condensed in his palm. It also made the man's clear face look a little sinister and vicious. This chapter end viewing starting event Zue new chapter section please arrive Tang Ke shop, mobile address. Chapter 47:17. Willpower? What did Gu Jingyu's words mean? The world group looked at Yi Qing Luo worriedly as their eyes were filled with worry. A flat and emotionless voice slowly rang. Once Qing Luo's willpower crumbles, Qing Luo will be easily swallowed by the power after the advancement. Everyone turned to the source of the voice, only to see a young lady dressed in pink dumpling expressionlessly saying, Qing Luo is in danger. Then what should we do? The world group immediately asked. After Long Yunzhan and Tong Ziqing were restricted by the Dark Nether Palace, Mo Yuing was the leader of the world group. Because, ever since they came to the Earth domain, although Mo Yuing was expressionless, but she looked like she knew everything. She knew everything about the Earth domain. Furthermore, she had been the commander of the battle between the heaven and the earth realms. Although Mo Yuying's presence was usually very low, it was as if he couldn't even see where she was. But at every critical moment, Mo Yuying would always be able to shoulder the burden alone. We can't agitate Qing Luo. Mo Yuying slightly narrowed her emotionless eyes. Think of a way to lead everyone away from the battlefield. With Ziqing here, there's no way to deal with those witchcraft insects. The world group all looked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Immediately after, their eyes turned solemn, and the flames around their bodies surged. Yes. After arranging everyone in the world group, Mo Yuying raised her eyes and looked at the young girl whose clothes were fluttering in the wind. An extremely faint light flashed across his empty and lifeless eyes. She lifted her feet and walked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. He had yet to move. A large palm grabbed his wrist. What are you doing? Mo Yuying looked at the palm and slowly raised her head. She looked at him expressionlessly. Let go. Xianxia frowned and said worriedly, No, it's too dangerous. Mo Yuying's big empty eyes revealed a bit of coldness. Let go. I know you're very strong, but it's clearly not at a stage where you can interfere. Xianxia refused to let go. Go with them and lead everyone away from the battlefield. During the conversation, Gu Jingyu seemed to have seen through the world group's intentions. He directly launched an attack towards Yi Qing Luo. As long as he could force Yi Qing Luo's profound waves into a mess, Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about the situation on the battlefield at all. Those voodoo goo could quickly devour everyone on the battlefield, using these powerful profound practitioners as witchcraft puppets. It was an army that was undefeatable and invincible. As for Yi Qing Luo, under such circumstances she was promoted. Sooner or later it would collapse. The ruthless coldness in Gu Jingyu's eyes intensified, and his attacks were also ruthless, specifically targeting Yi Qing Luo's vital points. Yi Qing Luo's expression was as cold as water and there wasn't even a single ripple in her eyes. Her beautiful face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. As for Gu Jingyu's attack, he didn't show any mercy and fought back directly. The two of them exchanged blows, causing the earth to quake and the mountains to shake. The Xian wave almost shattered the entire battlefield. As for those goo people who were swallowed by the witchcraft goo, after the flames disappeared, they started to attack wantonly. Mo Yuying spoke again, Let go. Don't go over there. Xianxia was a little tired. Why didn't his wife listen to him? His former wife was so adorable. Qing Luo is in danger. Mo Yuying's gaze was emotionless, without much emotions. I'll be fine. Then I'll go with you. Xianxia knew that he couldn't win Mo Yuying in an argument, so he made the final compromise. End of this chapter. Chapter 47:18. Mo Yuying's empty gaze fell onto Xianxia. After a few breaths, she said indifferently, Up to you. Xianxia finally released her wrist. The pink dumpling girl held Xianxia's hand in reverse. Without waiting for Xianxia's heartbeat to accelerate, he was pulled by Mo Yuying and was dragged to the edge of the sky. Stepping over the dense witchcraft worms on the ground, he headed straight towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo's movements were as smooth as flowing water. The glower flame fan on her fingertips kept sweeping an astonishing arc, as though it was gathering on her fingertips, swallowing everything around it. After more than 10 moves, Gu Jingyu was obviously at a disadvantage. No matter how he used words to provoke Yi Qing Luo, Yi Qing Luo was expressionless as she responded and counterattacked. There was no fluctuation of emotions at all. Not affected at all. After Gu Jingyu was sent flying, He stabilized his footsteps and frowned at the young lady in front of him. "This is what you hope for, isn't it?" The young lady opened up her arms, like a fairy, as she landed on the ground. Her voice was cold and clear on the battlefield where the profound waves rumbled. Gu Jingyu's heart thumped fiercely, gazing at the young lady's pair of calm eyes. His brows knitted even tighter as there was some fluctuation in his eyes. The young lady spoke indifferently. "You said it yourself, the next time we meet will be strangers, isn't it? Why are you looking at me in this way?" Her pink lips curled slightly, peerlessly beautiful. The majestic profound wave spread. However, the girl's smile seemed to be able to make everything around her lose its splendor. Not knowing why, Gu Jingyu felt as though his heart was pierced by numerous needles ruthlessly. There was some kind of emotion surging in his chest. Why, when facing Yiqing Luo, would he have such a feeling? Gu Jingyu's breathing became hurried. The young lady walked over slowly. The alluring red glow under her feet spread all the way. It formed an invisible shield around her. Until the young lady stopped in front of Gu Jingyu. Gu Jingyu seemed to have suddenly regained his senses, as his warm black eyes stared at Yiqing Luo. Suddenly he took a step back. I will not be lenient towards you." The young lady raised her hand slightly. That fiery red fan on the young lady's fair fingertips became even more brilliant. Gu Jingyu stared at the glowing flame fan in her hand and quickly tried to dodge it. But in the next instant, a dense evil Yin aura emerged from the man's feet. In an instant, the man's entire body was enveloped in black qi. The man groaned in pain, his body contorting. Yiqing Luo's attack paused momentarily. Her slender, white fingers reached out toward the thick black gas. Just as he moved, her arm was hugged by a small hand. A petite figure fell into the girl's arms. Chapter 47:19. She knew what Mo Yuing meant. Yes, she could tell. She could tell that this Gu Jingyu had a problem. Woo. Muffled groans could be heard coming from within the thick, black, evil energy. Suddenly, the profound Yin Qi started to spread. With a bang, the profound waves exploded in the surrounding air. Like a bomb, it exploded in the entire battlefield. A burst of earth quaked, causing those cultivators who were trying to escape from the battlefield to scream in terror. Under this powerful explosion, the three people beside Yiqing Luo seemed to be isolated from the explosion. Their bodies were surrounded by a barrier that emitted a bright red light. It blocked the thick, black, and evil energy. It also blocked the shockwaves from the explosion. Through the barrier, Yiqing Luo could clearly see that after the black qi dissipated, a figure was slowly revealed. His black robe was fluttering in the strong wind. His jet-black hair danced wildly on his shoulders. Between his brows, there was a thick, sinister qi. His eyes were filled with a thick, sinister qi. He looked like a devil who had crawled out from hell, attempting to kill everything in the world. On him, Yiqing Luo could no longer see that kind of feeling that the man once had. Was like jade, unparalleled in the world. Yiqing Luo? Perhaps it was because of the pity in Yiqing Luo's gaze, as though she was thinking of someone through him, that attracted Gu Jingyu's attention. The man's hoarse and sinister voice seemed to be cut by a saw, as it was unusually sharp and ear-piercing. "You're actually still conscious?" Gu Jingyu was very astonished. According to his analysis, shouldn't Yiqing Luo's consciousness have been controlled by the chaotic profound energy? Why was she still conscious? Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled slightly, the smile on the arc was extremely shallow. "Gu Jingyu, since you understand me so well, how would you not know that my acceptance and adaptability is different from others?" She indeed from the start. It was because of the dilemma, which stimulated the profound energy which was suppressed in her body. She broke through the advancement barrier in one fell swoop and was able to advance a grade. Because of her unstable emotions, the profound energy in her body surged and broke through her consciousness. He almost lost control. But fortunately, very quickly she gained control of part of the sovereignty. As for the other part, it could be said that she deliberately did not plunder it. Because she had to let her heart cool down. He could not be influenced by the Abyss Palace. Why did she have to choose between the so-called world and brotherhood? Yet she wanted both. Secluded Darkness Palace's scheme this time round is indeed very well planned. Yiqing Luo gave a faint smile as her long and narrow eyes seemed to be circulating with a chilly cold glint. The devouring flame fan at her fingertips. A dazzling and fatal profound light flashed past, lingering around her. It was as if in the next moment, it would obey her command and take her target's life. I thought I could wake you up. Yiqing Luo congealed Gu Jingyu's pair of vicious eyes. His eyes slightly darkened. A few strands of gentleness could be faintly seen. The Gu Jingyu in front of him was not him but also him. It was Gu Jingyu. He had Gu Jingyu's body, Gu Jingyu's memories, Gu Jingyu's power, Gu Jingyu's, and many more. But there was one thing missing. That was his heart. Without the heart which loved Yiqing Luo, and without his gentleness, his kindness, his softness, the current Gu Jingyu was like a killing machine. Or more accurately, a puppet of the Abyss Palace. 11. Chapter 47:20. Because Gu Jingyu's current existence. Just to lead the Palace of Darkness to deal with her. Such an arrangement from the Palace of Darkness. They were simply determined to make use of the feelings that she cared about the most, forcing her to go into chi deviation. Her willpower wasn't strong enough. That Long Yunzhan's betrayal. Tong Ziqing was controlled by witchcraft to take action against the world group. Gu Jingyu kept on saying that he owed him and wanted to repay him. Under such circumstances, forcefully advancing would cause the profound energy to be in a mess. The consequence would only be chi deviation. This was the motive of the Palace of Darkness. Yiqing Luo's fair fingertips gently pressed against the azure dew bracelet on her wrist. Her pink lips curled up into an extremely shallow arc. Luckily, Old Man Song woke her up at the critical juncture. Luckily, her willpower was strong enough. Then she avoided the backlash from the profound energy and the consequence of going into chi deviation. The Palace of Darkness had probably thought that their plan would fail. But they had never expected that Gu Jingyu, as the puppet of the Palace of Darkness, would have some strange actions because of Yiqing Luo's words. Earlier she attempted to awaken Gu Jingyu's rationality, to call back the heart that he had lost. But the Palace of Darkness discovered it in time, forcefully suppressing all the fluctuations in Gu Jingyu's emotions. But it was because of this that Yiqing Luo was completely certain that everything that she had guessed was true. For pairs of eyes met. The man's eyes, which were filled with dense black yin qi, revealed a maniacal emotion as he looked at her without blinking. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change as her narrow long eyes squinted slightly, revealing a chilly glint. After a moment of silence, Gu Jingyu took 2 steps forward. His tall and straight body swayed a little. Bringing along the yin qi, it drew an extremely shallow arc in the air. You're indeed very smart. His sinister voice was filled with a treacherous cold glint. That was a kind of different from the sinister piercing voice earlier, but as though it was wrapped in frost, a voice which came from the faraway North Pole. That blurry face which was faintly discernible in the yin qi was revealed from time to time. Yiqing Luo's gaze was fixated on that pair of malicious yet cold and mocking eyes. The light in her eyes flickered. His whole body was surrounded by profound waves, and his eyes became vigilant. You are not Gu Jingyu. Yiqing Luo took 2 steps back as she spoke in a chilly voice. Palace of Gloom. The real Palace Lord. That look. Even the puppet Gu Jingyu didn't have it. That kind of aura. It was also not an aura that Gu Jingyu could have. The person in front of him was no longer Gu Jingyu. Jia, the man opposite him chuckled softly. His face, which was obviously handsome but looked slightly sinister because of the black aura, revealed an extremely strange smile. As expected of the person that I have always wanted. With just a glance you recognized me. The smile on Gu Jingyu's face gradually deepened. It was cold and filled with pride and complacency. Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly sunk. The hurricane danced wildly. Profound waves swept out. The two of them stood face to face. The dazzling light collided with the black aura. Without a sound, countless sparks had already been produced from the collision. This should be considered as this was the first time that she and the person behind the Palace of Gloom had a real exchange of blows. Even if the other party was using Gu Jingyu's body. Get out of his body. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth indifferently, her voice was icy cold. Gu Jingyu raised his hand and touched his face. This is my disciple. I have bestowed so much glory to him and he has enjoyed the things that I have bestowed, so how can he not give back? Come. Wonderful book house. You used Ajahn to poison me with the mystical Yin fragrance, and then let Gu Jingyu know about it. The mysterious Yin fragrance is a Yin poison that even I am unable to cure. Only you can. In order for me to survive, Gu Jingyu made a deal with you. When Yiqing Luo said this, she paused slightly. Congealing the face of Gu Jingyu in front of her as compared to the Gu Jingyu in her memory, there was a vast difference in expression. She continued, "At that time I was still thinking, why did he say such strange things when he saved me? Wanting to treat us as strangers in exchange for saving me. Because you used his heart as the method to cure the profound fragrance in exchange." Chapter 47:22. So, that was why Gu Jingyu said those words to her back then. Which was why he righteously used the excuse of saving her, in exchange for a chance for them to be strangers. He even mentioned before. When they met again he wouldn't pity her anymore. He also reminded her that when they met again, not to believe anything he said, that he would stand on his master's side unconditionally. Actually, from that moment onwards he already knew everything. But for her, he had no other choice. He could only agree to his master's request. This was the real motive of the person behind the secluded palace. That person had schemed everything. Everything was interconnected. He really didn't give her any breathing space at all. Yiqing Luo gave a light laugh as her long and narrow eyes overflowed with a faint cold glint. "That's right, everything you said is right." Gu Jingyu didn't have any intention to hide as he sneered sinisterly at her. "After knowing what he had done for you, do you feel any gratitude towards him?" His smile was extremely cold and sinister. His frightening eyes were filled with a thick, dark, evil aura. Once there's gratitude, then it's not too far away from love. Gu Jingyu, a smile revealed some conceited complacency. "In this way, this seat's obedient disciple has to thank this seat." Yiqing Luo's brows were as cold as water right from the start. There wasn't a single ripple on her gorgeous face because of Gu Jingyu's words. As the sinister qi around Gu Jingyu became thicker and thicker, it almost spread across the entire battlefield. Yiqing Luo's dazzling profound glow was also gradually spreading. Between the two of them, there seemed to be a silent confrontation. The people in the battlefield, under the world group's lead, gradually retreated from the battlefield. This prevented a large number of cultivators from being hurt by the two of them. But there was still a small portion of cultivators who didn't leave the battlefield in time. Instantly, they were engulfed by the too majestic profound energy on the battlefield. Those densely packed witchcraft bugs also vanished into thin air at this instance. The entire battlefield seemed to belong to the both of them. No one could interfere. Shock and astonishment corroded everyone's hearts. "Shadow." Anai Rupan's flustered voice was heard from the world group's mercenary card. "You guys are still in the battlefield, are you alright?" About 30 meters away from the powerful aura emitted by Yiqing Luo and Gu Jingyu, a pink ball-shaped barrier was faintly discernible. Emoing grabbed Xiao Yinyan's arm with one hand and held the mercenary card with the other. "I'm fine." In the midst of the frenzied hurricane profound wave, the pink barrier seemed to be unaffected in the slightest. Xiao Yinyan stood behind Emoing in shock. He felt very complicated. He was actually protected by Emoing. The reason he followed his wife was to protect her. Why was he the one being protected now? Xiao Yinyan wanted to stand in front of Emoing like a man. But, looking at the sand and pebbles flying around, the game was in a frenzy. If Emoing let go of his hand, he would probably be devoured like the other cultivators, right? Xiao Yinyan's heart was filled with depression. Emoing ignored him. Her eyes drooped and her empty gaze was fixed on the mercenary card. Anai Rupan's cautious voice was heard from inside. "Shadow, Sister Ziqing is still inside. If it's possible, can you bring her out?" Finishing this sentence, Anai Rupan explained apprehensively, "Sister Ziqing is different from the others who were inflicted with witchcraft bugs. She might be able to change back." Chapter 47:23. "Yeah." Emoing answered faintly. Emoing put the mercenary card into her pocket and turned to look at Xiao Yinyan. "Did you hear that?" Xiao Yinyan was still feeling sorry for himself. When he heard Mo Ying's words, he looked at her in confusion. "Ha! Ziqing is on the battlefield. We need to go and find her," Emoing repeated. Xiao Yinyan was dazed. He thought of the woman who was controlled like a wild beast and didn't recognize anyone. He held Mo Ying's hand tightly. She doesn't know you anymore. What if she hurts you if you go and find her?" "No." Mo Ying's gaze didn't change. Xiao Yinyan's eyes were full of worry. His silver hair fluttered in the wind. That handsome face was faintly discernible in his hair. There was a flash of light in Mo Ying's lifeless eyes. A fleeting image suddenly appeared in his mind. She didn't have time to see it clearly. Then it disappeared. "What's wrong?" Xiao Yinyan noticed her absent-mindedness and immediately hugged the girl's petite body. Is it too difficult to hold up this barrier? I told you not to enter the battlefield. Let's go out now. Emoing grabbed Xiaoyinyan's wrist. No, don't think too much. She calmed herself down and squeezed the man's firm wrist with her soft hand. Go and find Ziqing. Follow me closely. Xiao Yinyan couldn't argue with her, so he could only follow her. With Mo Ying's barrier, the two moved a bit slower, but it wasn't as fast as before. But it was very safe. The two released their dark energy and fought against the big bosses silently. The dark energy waves surged more and more violently. It was as if they had to restrain the other party. The waves around them seemed to be able to swallow mountains and rivers, as if they could swallow everything in the world. The two followed their memories. They came near Tong Ziqing. Under the majesty of the two big bosses. The sorcerer's goo worms that were circling on the ground had long been dispersed by the impact of this wave of energy and were torn into pieces. The monsters that were swallowed by the witchcraft insects were still struggling desperately. Some were also swallowed by the energy. Some were still struggling. Emoing saw Tong Ziqing, who was standing among the witchcraft insects, kneeling on the ground and holding her head in pain. The woman wore an ocean blue dress that was stained with dirt and blood. Her slightly hunched body made her look extremely petite. Painful voice from the mouth. It was a bestial howl of pain. Follow me. Emoing gripped Xiao Yinyan's hand tightly and turned his head. With a serious expression he said, Hold on to me tightly and don't let go of me. Emoing walked slowly towards Tong Ziqing. The current Tong Ziqing. Although it was different from those terrifying witchcraft monsters. But in reality it wasn't much different. Aside from retaining her original appearance, Tong Ziqing did not look like other goo poison monsters. Her entire body was pitch black, and her movements were extremely similar to a wild beast. She has other habits. He was no different from those witchcraft monsters. Emoing guessed. The gloomy palace allowed Tong Ziqing to retain her human form. It was probably to arouse Yiqing Luo's feelings of pity and heartache. Emoing curled his lips. His empty and soulless eyes seemed to be plundering some light. Despicable. The girl's voice was crisp and clear. What's the matter? Xiao Yinyan lowered his eyes slightly. His silver hair brushed past the girl's fingertips. Emoing said indifferently, I'm going to hold on to Ziqing tightly. Be careful, if she wants to attack someone, knock her out. His words were as light as the wind and clouds. Knock her out? If he made a move on her classmate, the next one to be knocked out would be him? Chapter 47-24. Mo Ying's gaze landed on Tong Ziqing. She took a step forward. Near Tong Ziqing. Those struggling witchcraft monsters desperately stretched out their hands, wanting to pounce on Mo Ying. But when they touched the pink ball of light, they were bounced away. There were even some who were directly bounced into the surrounding hurricane strength and were instantly swallowed up completely. Mo Ying's face was calm, as if he didn't see those witchcraft monsters at all. Or more accurately, Mo Ying had great confidence in her boundary. She didn't think that the witchcraft monsters could break through her boundary. Until Mo Ying stopped beside Tong Ziqing. The woman was still curled up on the ground. Her black hair was messy and dirty. The half of her face that was exposed was full of pain. Mo Ying slowly reached out a hand towards Tong Ziqing. The pale little hand passed through the pink light and reached in front of Tong Ziqing. Ziqing, I'm here to take you home. His voice was flat and emotionless. That soft little hand stopped in front of Tong Ziqing's eyes. There was no hesitation. There was no fear. It was so calm, as if it was simply taking her home. Tong Ziqing, who was frozen on the ground, slowly raised her bloodthirsty eyes. Her cold and beautiful face was stiff and full of viciousness. His eyes, which seemed to be filled with blood, flickered with a startling sharpness. But that sharpness in that instant, when it came into contact with the little hand that was so close to her, that had no fear towards her, the red and bloodshot eyes suddenly seemed to freeze. The petite and slender body was extremely stiff and tight. Then it slowly started to tremble. It was as if she had regained consciousness in an instant. Slowly, following that little hand, she looked at Mo Ying. She spat out 2 words with difficulty and pain. Ing, Z. She just spat out 2 words. Tong Ziqing's expression was as if she had suffered all kinds of torture and pain. Mo Ying's eyes were emotionless. He reached out to pull her and analyzed rationally, You can still call out my name, which means you can still be saved. The moment her hand touched Tong Ziqing's body, Tong Ziqing's eyes widened. Behind her, a strong force pulled her into his arms. She heard the man's panicked voice, Ing, be careful. Mo Ying's hand brushed past Tong Ziqing's skin. It was cold to the touch. Mo Ying's body shook. Meanwhile, the place where Tong Ziqing was standing just now, a surge of thick dark force burst forth. Mo Ying poked his head out of Xiao Yinyan's arms and looked at Tong Ziqing. However, the person who seemed to have regained consciousness was now more like a monster. He staggered, and there was a strong mysterious wave rippling between his fingers. On the ground, a huge crater was formed. Mo Ying just glanced. He analyzed the situation just now. She stretched out her hand to pull Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing gave her a backhand slap. However, Xiao Yinyan pulled her back just in time. The barrier blocked all of Tong Ziqing's attacks. Mo Ying frowned in confusion. Just now, when he regained consciousness, it didn't seem to be fake. How could it suddenly? She broke free from Xiao Yinyan's arms and pulled Xiao Yinyan closer to Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing's attack just now had exhausted all of her strength. At this moment, she was shaken by the strong aura around her. Her whole body fell to the ground like a puppet that had lost its strings. Mo Ying approached again, trying to pull her into the barrier. Her wrist was held tightly by Xiao Yinyan's big palm. Chapter 47-25. The man's deep voice still carried a trace of lingering worry. No. I can't let you take any more risks. You could say he was cold. You could say he was indifferent. Even if Mo Ying would blame him after this. He absolutely didn't want Mo Ying to get hurt. Tong Ziqing had obviously lost her own consciousness. Whereas his Ying seemed indifferent, as if she wouldn't care about anything. But he was very clear. Mo Ying cared about her sisters more than anyone else. As long as Tong Ziqing showed a little bit of kindness, Mo Ying would disregard everything to protect her. But Tong Ziqing was no longer the Tong Ziqing of the past. She would hurt Mo Ying. Xiao Yinyan. Mo Ying's voice was still cold, but her hands were on the man's chest, struggling. Let me go, she can't hold on any longer. I don't care. Xiao Yinyan refused to let go. I don't care about others, I only care about you. Don't make a fuss, nothing can happen to Ziqing. Mo Ying's voice deepened, apparently angry. But Xiao Yinyan refused to let go. Outside the barrier, Tong Ziqing let out a painful moan. As if in the next moment she was going to be engulfed by the surging profound wave pressure. Countless profound waves shook the surrounding ground, causing numerous cracks to appear. Tong Ziqing's limp body, which had fallen to the ground, was also shaking along with the unceasing tremors of the ground. Crack. Bam. The pressure from the surging profound wave caused the ground to shake once again. The crack on the ground below Tong Ziqing expanded. The woman's body fell into the crack. Ziqing. Mo Ying's eyes widened. The expressionless face of paralysis revealed a panicked expression at this moment. She struggled to break free from Xiao Yinyan and rushed out of the barrier. Between Gu Jingyu and Yiqing Luo, the profound wave pressure poured down. Even Mo Ying felt the pressure from these two forces, as if her internal organs were squeezed. Her petite body was hunched under the pressure. However, she still rushed to Tong Ziqing's crack and bent down. Her small soft hand was about to grab the woman who fell into the crack. Suddenly, a cold wind brushed past her cheek. There was an indescribable meaning in his words. Mo Ying rolled on the ground, dodging the attack. When he looked up again, a young man in blue robes holding a blue long sword appeared in front of him. That pair of azure eyes met hers. Mo Ying's beautiful but empty eyes blinked and met the youth's gaze. A moment later, his lips moved slightly and he spat out two words, "Commander." The youth before him was Long Yunzhan. A familiar face, a familiar person, and a familiar expressionless face. However, the way he looked at her was different. The youth's gaze was cold and indifferent, as if he was looking at a stranger. The sword in his hand was placed horizontally in front of him. It was as if he would attack her in the next moment. Mo Ying's gaze slid down. Chapter 47-26. The expression on Mo Ying's paralyzed face didn't change. But in the depths of his eyes, there was a hint of dark light that flashed. His emotions were very faint. But at least there were some fluctuations. This was a rare sight on Mo Ying's face. He had never seen it before. Inga. Xiao Yinyan hugged her from behind and pulled her small body into his embrace. Mo Ying could still hear his frightened voice. I'm sorry, I really didn't want to see you get hurt. Mo Ying did not move, nor did she struggle. The man's silver hair flowed down along the girl's face and scattered on the girl's body, intertwining with the girl's fine black hair. His temperature. It also enveloped her completely. Inga. Xiao Yinyan's voice was soft as he rubbed his head against her. I know you care about your classmates and I know the relationship between the two of you. But in the situation just now. His voice was full of grievance. My feelings are the same as yours. You care about her and I care about you. Let go. Mo Ying's voice was indifferent. I'm not angry at you. You're ignoring me because you're angry at me. Xiao Yinyan refused to let go. He understood this feeling very well. His actions just now were indeed too selfish. He knew that Mo Ying would be angry, but he did not regret it. I don't wish to talk about such useless things with you here. Mo Ying's tone was calm. Let's go to the world group to meet up. What about Qing Luo's side? Xiao Yinyan was still in a daze when he heard that she had no intention to continue staying on the battlefield. Mo Ying raised her small head, her empty eyes staring at the horizon without blinking, looking at the two people who were speechless. Then he retracted his gaze and said, she no longer needs my help. She moved her hands and looked at him expressionlessly. If I don't let go, how can I leave? I'll carry you. Xiao Yinyan lifted the little pink ball into his arms like a princess. Mo Ying's face was cold as she stared at him for a moment. In the end, she did not stop his actions. She allowed him to act childishly and domineeringly, as if he was trying to please her and was afraid that she would not want him to rely on her. Qing Luo, who was suspended in midair, her eyes turned chilly. The bewitching profound light encircled her body. It set off wisps of air waves that rippled in the air. The two of them exchanged dozens of blows in silence. Profound waves collided, the battlefield collapsed, and hurricanes surged. As for the two people who had caused all of this, they did not move at all. How long has it been since we last met? Your strength has improved again. The sinister voice of Gu Jingyu seemed to contain an ambiguous smile. That pair of eyes that were covered with a sinister aura. Eerily cold stares at her chest. No, more accurately, it was her heart. The divine phoenix profound heart jade has indeed been nurtured very well in your body. Gu Jingyu's eyes were filled with greed. I really want to dig out your heart right now and take out your divine phoenix profound heart jade. From his tone, it was as if he had already imagined such a beautiful scene. His tone was filled with excitement and joy. Then he sighed faintly and shook his head regretfully. What a pity. I still have to let you live. I cannot let you die. I can only let the divine phoenix profound heart jade be nourished in your body for a while longer. Between the words, he had completely regarded the young lady's divine phoenix profound heart jade as his own. The meaning behind his words. After Qing Luo no longer had any value to be used, he would personally dig out Qing Luo's divine phoenix profound heart jade. The rest would continue tomorrow. More, end of this chapter. Watch first episode Zue new chapter section. Please arrive Tang Cook Company, mobile address. Chapter 47-27. Qing Luo's expression didn't have the slightest change. A pair of long and narrow eyes stared at the familiar face in front of her, which was emitting a gloomy and cold aura. Her pink lips parted and her voice was icy cold. I won't give you this chance. Gu Jingyu sneered coldly a few times. He didn't agree with Qing Luo's words. To him, Qing Luo was already in his hands, a fish waiting to be slaughtered by him. Her resistance now. But it was of no use. Even though Qing Luo had ruined many of his matters and plans time and time again. But it couldn't be changed. Qing Luo's existence was only to be slaughtered by him. Qing Luo naturally saw the sinister confidence displayed on that handsome face in front of her. Qing Luo's cold and alluring face revealed some ridicule. Since you are so confident, why? Don't dare to show your true face? The young lady's eyes revealed a cold arc of ridicule. When her pink lips curled slightly. That cold and alluring face. The ridicule in the depths of her eyes was even more. As if it was emitted from her bones, the ridicule and disdain towards the Nether Palace. Her attitude was noble and arrogant, totally not inferior to Gu Jingyu's attitude. You don't even have the courage to meet me, so what qualifications do you have to strut around in front of me? Qing Luo slowly took a step forward. Her footsteps were calm. But her temperament was shaken. It was as though a formless xianxia current was lingering around her body, slowly spreading outwards. Gu Jingyu looked at the young lady who was getting closer and closer to him. The complacent and sinister face suddenly froze. The treacherous cold eyes suddenly widened with a thick sinister aura. Even more vicious. Mixed with a few wisps of cold killing intent. Qing Luo didn't seem to feel the coldness from Gu Jingyu. She didn't stop her footsteps. She walked closer and closer to Gu Jingyu. Her pink lips curled up, her voice was still leisurely spilling out from her lips. The person behind the Nether Palace. From the beginning, in my eyes, you are just a rat hiding in the dark. In the past, now and in the future. How afraid are you of facing me with your own face? The girl's words were clear and forceful. The tone of his voice rose. An oppressive aura poured down in torrents. The expression of Gu Jingyu became twisted and hideous bit by bit. His eyebrows were filled with a strange hostility. There was a thick, dark aura of lust. It seemed like it was going to devour Gu Jingyu's body. Yiqing Luo didn't even give Gu Jingyu a chance to speak. When he stood in front of Gu Jingyu, the curve of her pink lips revealed a hint of cold and tranquil air. Don't think that I will be controlled by you just because you have Gu Jingyu's face. Yiqing Luo's cold eyes overflowed with cold ridicule. Don't think that I will become like you because Gu Jingyu tried to save me, and feel guilty and raise my hands to surrender. You kept Gu Jingyu by your side and gave him the identity of the palace lord of the Nether Palace, all because of your own selfishness. Yiqing Luo's slightly hoarse voice was cold and serene. Gu Jingyu agreed to your conditions and gave his body to you. Most of the reason was because of me, I admit. But the person who pushed him into a life-and-death situation is you. His master who personally cut off his path of survival. The young lady's cold tone finally had some fluctuations at this moment. Chapter 47:28. You seem to be angry. It seemed to be because of Gu Jingyu's injustice and unwillingness. Yiqing Luo had never denied that she owed Gu Jingyu what he had done for him. However, there was one thing that had to be made clear. From start to finish, the only person she owed was Gu Jingyu. It had nothing to do with Abysmal Palace. It had nothing to do with the people behind the Dark Palace. Gu Jingyu was not the mastermind of Gloomy Palace. He wanted to use Gu Jingyu to achieve his own goals. This was his business. It did not mean that she would choose to compromise because of Gu Jingyu. Furthermore, the girl's fingertips moved lightly. The shimmering red feather fan was extremely dazzling as it flowed with flowing light. The pressure of the Xian wave, with the young girl as the center, snatched the right to the atmosphere of the battle. The one who schemed against Gu Jingyu was you. The one who turned Gu Jingyu into his current state was you. Now, the one who occupied Gu Jingyu's body and tried to use him was you. As the young girl spoke word by word, the aura around him became more and more majestic. Gu Jingyu had never thought that everything that he had meticulously planned would be treated in such a manner by Yiqing Luo. It was completely different from what he had expected. This was a completely unconventional way of thinking. In the end, why did she push all the blame onto him? Stunned for a moment, Gu Jingyu grinned eerily and laughed sinisterly. This posture? You want to fight with me? His tone was filled with terrifying disdain. Don't think that just because you were able to fight with me that you have the ability to surpass me. Gu Jingyu sneered, and the mysterious waves on his body spread out little by little. Wisps of dark ripples were mixed with a thick, black, evil aura. Two streams of dark force heavily collided. Intense dark light burst forth. Space trembled. The ground beneath Yiqing Luo's feet started to crack. It actually suppressed Yiqing Luo's profound ray, which was released. I'm just playing with you? With your current strength, it's impossible for you to surpass me. The handsome face of Gu Jingyu was filled with a smug and arrogant sneer. Yiqing Luo's fingertips turned. The devouring flame fan was placed horizontally in front of him. It resisted the oppressive black profound energy. Her expression did not change much. He did not have any misgivings because of the power released by Gu Jingyu. When he met the dark eyes of Gu Jingyu, he was stunned. On the contrary, her pink lips curled into a faint smile. She carelessly scoffed in a low voice, "Then, are you sure that I used my full strength just now?" As soon as the young girl finished speaking, "Peng!" A loud sound soared to the sky. A powerful aura suddenly burst forth from her body. The dazzling red profound light clashed with the thick black evil energy. There seemed to be some kind of ripple in the air, constantly twisting and changing. Bang, 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 two rays of profound light clashed against one another. After letting out a deafening explosion, Qin Xiaobei's eyes lit up. Both of them took a few steps back almost at the same time. Yiqing Luo steadied herself as the flowing clouds in her robe made her look bright and beautiful. The ability of the person behind the scenes in the secluded palace is merely this. No wonder you don't dare to show your true face. You're afraid that you're too embarrassed. His tone was cold and arrogant, extremely mocking. Gu Jingyu's feet dragged out two deep marks. These were the marks left behind by the young lady's aura earlier. But looking at the young girl's side, there were no marks at all. In contrast, it was obvious who was better. Chapter 47:29. Surprise flashed in the eyes of Gu Jingyu, and it was cold. The gaze he shot towards Yiqing Luo was filled with a different meaning. Evil qi and murderous qi were constantly intertwining. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows slightly and stared at Gu Jingyu's ashen face. A faint smile that seemed to be mocking and ridiculing appeared at the corner of his mouth. As expected, his guess was not wrong. The person behind the scenes of Gloomy Palace had used this method to appear in front of her. Either that or because of playing mystery. Either that or there were other secrets. Just now, he used this as a reason to mock the people behind the scenes of the Dark Ghost Palace from start to finish. However, the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness didn't give any response. If it was really the person behind the scenes of the Dark Palace or someone with a bit of guts, after being ridiculed again and again. Or if they were unconvinced, they would reveal their true faces and slap themselves in the face. Or he would turn around and leave in anger. But the mastermind of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness chose to remain silent. Avoid this topic. Based on his past experience, he could tell that the Dragon King's aura was extremely powerful. Yiqing Luo was almost certain. It wasn't that the mastermind of the Gloomy Palace didn't want to appear with his real body. It was just that the mastermind of the Gloomy Palace had no other choice. He could only use Gu Jingyu's body. Then a further guess would be, for some reason the strength of the person behind the scenes of the Dark Abyss Palace was being suppressed. He was not the person behind the scenes of the Dark Palace at its peak. Perhaps she still had a chance to fight back. Take advantage of a person's illness to take his life. Who asked the person behind the scenes of the Gloomy Palace to forcefully put on an act when his body was clearly injured? Wasn't this clearly putting his neck under her knife? It all depended on whether or not she could chop off the neck of the person behind the Palace of Darkness. As it turned out, all of her guesses were correct. Yiqing Luo didn't give the people behind the secluded palace any chance to breathe. His body suddenly bounced up and flew up. The vast dark light, with a sharp and vicious aura, once again attacked the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness. The storm raged. The battlefield had already been destroyed to pieces. Under the dazzling dark light, the girl was dressed in a fiery red dress, dazzling and dazzling. She stood in the air, as boundless profound energy surged around her body with endless energy waves, crazily surging like a tide. What was even more shocking was, the girl's profound rank and profound strength were still continuously increasing. Gu Jingyu had a cold look on his face. The thick black mysterious yin qi entangled with the red light in the air. That handsome face of his didn't reveal any embarrassment or nervousness from being seen through by Yiqing Luo. He was very calm and composed. It was as if he was still hiding something. Since he dared to stand here, how could he not have a foolproof plan? Although the estimation of Yiqing Luo's ability was wrong. However, it did not affect the failure of other plans and arrangements. Under the sharp red glow of the young lady's devouring flame fan, Gu Jingyu waved his sleeve. He took 2 steps back. 2 figures were dragged in front of him. Following that, he pushed him towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo subconsciously raised her glower flame fan and was about to land it. Yiqing Luo, I advise you not to be rash. The sinister laughter combined with the clear voice of Gu Jingyu. It was extremely out of tune. If the both of them die, I'm afraid you will not be able to find a way to save that little blue dragon of yours. Gu Jingyu's words successfully made the young lady's movements halted. Among the majestic and overbearing profound qi, Old Wu and Wu Chei's figures were faintly discernible. In Old Wu's hand there was a huge silver basin. Chapter 4730. The densely packed black venomous worms kept squirming. It was a ghastly sight to behold, one that would strike fear into one's heart. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk slightly. The venomous worms on Long Yunzhan. It was planted by Elder Wu. Previously, when Jun Qingwu helped to inquire about the cure for the heart-devouring venomous worm, she had mentioned it before. The person who planted the venomous worm was needed to cure it. Indeed, only Elder Wu could save Long Yunzhan. Yiqing Luo, the war between the heaven and earth is no longer something you can intervene in. Gu Jingyu's eyes were cold and his tone was awe-inspiring. Yiqing Luo's eyes were slightly cold, like a cold glint flashed past. Her slender fingers hung by the side of her body. The glower flame fan at her fingertips blended with the flame-red dress. It seemed that because of Gu Jingyu's words, she was unable to make the right choice. His entire person seemed to be somewhat dispirited. Gu Jingyu spoke coldly, I have said that your so-called loyalty is your biggest shortcoming. If it wasn't for this shortcoming, why would you be provoked by me again and again? His tone was full of sarcasm. That pair of cold, dark and evil eyes seemed to be mocking Yiqing Luo's stupidity. Elder Wuche continued to release the venomous worms. Gu Jingyu spoke again, his cold eyes looked towards the two of them. Elder Wu looked at the venomous worms in the silver basin and turned to look at Gu Jingyu, but these venomous worms, they were useless. This young lady in front of her. Her battle pet had completely restrained this batch of venomous worms. Even if they were all released, it was also meaningless. What's more, they were still on the battlefield. Gu Jingyu could escape if she wanted to. But she and Wu Che might not be able to leave the battlefield in time. Although the venomous worms were refined by her. But that didn't mean she had enough energy to control the basin full of venomous worms. Gu Jingyu obviously wanted both of them to die on the battlefield. Elder Wu's expression congealed slightly, his eyes were cold and malicious. He was secretly thinking about how to reverse the current situation. And Wu Che, who was next to him, was holding his grandmother's arm. His face was extremely pale. When he looked at Yiqing Luo, his eyes were filled with unconcealable venom. Her fingers tightened around Venerable Wu's arm. She had been on the battlefield for a long time, following Elder Wu's deployment. After Yiqing Luo appeared, she had seen everything that she had done. She was like a deity that had appeared. He could easily make those arrogant people from the Earth realm, who were unwilling to submit, bow down to him. Then he looked at her, proudly facing the God realm. As long as Yiqing Luo was around, it was as if he could turn the world around. That kind of nobility made people look up to him. What? They were both women. Yiqing Luo was able to be so unbridled and was respected by everyone. Why did she and Grandma have to be ordered around by this person from the Dark Shadow Palace? Furthermore, even the witchcraft that they wanted to refine and research, they also had to intervene and control it. Wu Che felt a strong sense of injustice. There was also extreme envy towards Yiqing Luo. There was also hatred towards Yiqing Luo. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, her life with her grandma would not be disrupted just like that. Grandma would not work hard every day to refine the venomous worms that the Dark Shadow Palace wanted. If it wasn't because of Yiqing Luo's intrusion that day messing up Grandma's hard work, delaying the schedule of the Dark Shadow Palace, Grandma wouldn't be hurt because of this. It wouldn't be to protect her. Instead, she forcefully used her own flesh and blood to display the forbidden art of venomous worms, to refine a batch of more perfect venomous worms. Chapter 4731. Wu Che told the suffering she and her grandmother had suffered. All the blame was on Yiqing Luo. It seemed that this was the only way for her to vent her anger. Perhaps, to be more accurate, she was jealous of Yiqing Luo, and hated Yiqing Luo. As though the meaning of her existence was to be used by the secluded palace to deal with Yiqing Luo. Release. Gu Jingyu's sinister voice had no hesitation at all. The command was filled with endless majesty. Elder Wu's hand trembled slightly. Still hesitating. He heard Gu Jingyu's mocking and indifferent voice with a hint of ridicule. Yiqing Luo, I am very curious, the current you. What kind of choice will you make? Carrying all the burden on yourself. You are so silly and pitiful, totally different from me. His voice was slightly suppressed. Now even the people from God realm seemed to be depending on you to live. When Gu Jingyu said till here, he couldn't help but snorted in ridicule. His eyes, which were filled with dark evil chi, revealed some interest, as though he was watching a wonderful show. He could tell. He was extremely disdainful towards Yiqing Luo's actions. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes didn't have too many emotions. As though she didn't take Gu Jingyu's words to heart. Or as though she was dismissive towards Gu Jingyu's words. That kind of noble arrogance. As though she was above the 9 heavens. The innate pride and unyielding character, which made Wu Che's eyes slightly red. Especially when Yiqing Luo's gaze, which was filled with ridicule, collided with hers. The hatred which had been accumulated in her chest for a long time suddenly burst out like a flood, unable to be controlled. He stretched out his hand and snatched the silver basin from Elder Wu's hand. Immediately, it smashed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Che. Elder Wu was shocked by Wu Che's action and wanted to stop him. But it was too late. That huge silver basin attacked towards Yiqing Luo, and densely packed witchcraft worms fell from that silver basin. Old Wu's face froze and he quickly carried Wu Che. Then he moved his feet and shot out his dark force in an attempt to escape from the battlefield. But, the next moment, Venerable Wu only felt a cold wind blowing on his face. The strength in his arms lessened. The person in her arms suddenly disappeared from her arms. Elder Wu hugged empty air and his expression became even more solemn. The sweet voice of a young girl entered his ears, but that tone was filled with a treacherous coldness that made one's hair stand on end. Indeed, I cannot attack Venerable Wu. She paused and chuckled softly. That laughter was like the laughter of death from hell. It made one's hair stand on end for no reason. But I can kill Wu Che. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes were filled with seductive allure and her smile was as beautiful as a flower. This sentence caused Venerable Wu's body to freeze. He looked in the direction of the voice. He saw the young girl who was as hot as the sun, strangling Wu Che's slender neck with her jade-like fingers. The strength of the 5 fingers wasn't too heavy, but the suffocating feeling of being strangled made Wu Che's face turn pale in pain. He wanted to resist but he couldn't move at all. And the young girl's other hand opened up a flaming feather fan and gently shook it. His attitude was extremely careless. You, how dare you? Wu Che gritted his teeth and spat out the words with difficulty. A pair of venomous eyes widened and his pupils almost popped out from his eyes. That face looked terrifying and ugly. Chapter 4732. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly as her eyes sparkled as she laughed faintly. You think I don't dare to kill you? She tilted her head as her gaze slowly fell onto Gu Jingyu. Looking at the expression on Gu Jingyu, she revealed some astonishment. The young lady's smile became even more radiant. The person I need is Elder Wu, but the person I'm unhappy with is also Elder Wu. Her faint voice was as clear as a bell. Her fingertips gently rubbed against Wu Che's neck. It seemed like the next moment. Her sharp nails were about to pierce through Wu Che's neck. Unfortunately, I can't touch Elder Wu. Yi Qing Luo pretended to be helpless as she sighed. So, I can only use you to vent my anger. Yi Qing Luo. Elder Wu didn't dare to act rashly as his murky old eyes were filled with panic and uneasiness. You let go of Che, Yi Qing Luo shook her head, her gaze was calm and stern. Since Elder Wu had long cooperated with the Palace of Darkness, then you should know the purpose of the Palace of Darkness. She smiled as she glanced sideways at the pale-faced Wu Che. The smile on her lips bloomed like a sweet rose. Bright and flamboyant, unparalleled. What the Palace of Darkness doesn't like the most is to have a soft spot. Like this palace mistress of the Palace of Darkness. The most shameful thing is to be tied down. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head, her gorgeous face was filled with an innocent expression. Why not I help you cut off this tie? As the young lady spoke, her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. No need to thank me after all. You've given me so many gifts, just treat it as a return gift, no need to thank me. The second half of the sentence. She was still smiling. But that pair of long and narrow eyes, there wasn't a hint of a smile. Instead, every word and sentence slowed down the speed. Every word and sentence pierced into the heart. Elder Wu's expression changed as he shouted sternly, What are you trying to do? Let go of Che. She leapt upwards, speedily flying towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo didn't move as she stepped on a pile of gravel. Densely packed witchcraft bugs crawled around her feet, quickly eroding the entire battlefield. Facing Elder Wu's swift attack of eagle claws, she smiled even more brilliantly. The coldness between his brows slowly seeped out. We can test whether your speed is faster or mine is faster. Her gaze was calm. There was no panic or seriousness after she attacked Elder Wu. Her hand was on Wu Che's neck. Venerable Wu's hand had already stopped 3 meters away from the girl's face. His face, which was covered with wrinkles, was filled with malevolence and unwillingness. However, in the end he did not dare to make another move. Do it. Gu Jingyu had already gathered in the Qi of Yin and was floating in the air. The distance was a little far. She could vaguely see the deep meaning in his eyes. It was obvious that he was extremely satisfied with the show that he was watching. The feeling of playing with a person's feelings in the palm of his hand. It did feel good. He wanted to push Venerable Wu one step further and force him to make the final decision. Elder Wu didn't move as he stared intently at Yi Qing Luo's eyes. If you dare to hurt Che, that blue dragon of yours will never be able to return to your side. Yi Qing Luo's eyes suddenly flashed. Her long and thick lashes drooped slightly, concealing all the emotions under her eyes. Elder Wu probably hadn't discovered that she had revealed another piece of news. What Elder Wu meant was, Long Yunzhan still had a chance and a possibility to return to her side like in the past. Chapter 4733. As for whether Long Yunzhan could return to the side of his brothers or not, Yiqing Luo actually didn't know what to do. There was no way to confirm that right from the start. That person was arranged to be in the devil class, just to gain her trust. Long Yunzhan. Could he come back? But now, old Wu's words had inadvertently revealed an answer that she wanted to know. Long Yunzhan could still come back. Returning to the world group. Back to the home that belonged to all of them. Yiqing Luo's pupils congealed slightly. He slowly put Wu Che down. However, his slender fingers were still clutching her throat. She looked at Venerable Wu with her charming eyes and said word by word, "If you cure Ajahn of the Gu, I'll let Wu Che go." "All right." Almost without hesitation, Elder Wu replied. Gu Jingyu shouted sternly, "Elder Wu, you want to leave the Palace of Darkness without my permission?" Venerable Wu's face contorted and his body stiffened. Her only goal in life was to stay by Wu Che's side. In order to take care of Wu Che so that Wu Che would never have to worry about anything. She even sacrificed herself to do the most shameful thing for witchcraft masters. What's more, he consumed his own flesh and blood to cast a forbidden technique. Once the witchcraft Gu's forbidden technique was used, it was not just a sacrifice of flesh and blood. There was also the price of losing one's lifespan. "Venerable Wu, do you think I will give you the chance to betray me?" Gu Jingyu was not anxious, nor was he angry because Venerable Wu wanted to betray him. It was as if everything was just a fleeting cloud in his eyes. Everything was under his control. Elder Wu's expression suddenly changed. His malicious eyes were filled with astonishment. What did you do to Che?" Gu Jingyu chuckled and waved his sleeve. Dense profound Yin energy clashed with the dazzling profound light that filled the sky. In the meantime, the lady whose neck was clutched by Yiqing Luo suddenly stiffened. Then he curled up in pain. He groaned in pain. A few wisps of mysterious Yin Qi flowed out of his body. "Che." Elder Wu's expression froze as he involuntarily called out Wu Che's name. Looking at Wu Che's pained face, he did not look him in the eye. Venerable Wu was almost going crazy. Yiqing Luo looked at Wu Che indifferently. His emotions did not change at all because of her pain. On the contrary, her gaze was cold and indifferent. He didn't seem to care about the tricks that Gu Jingyu wanted to play. "Yiqing Luo. Let go of Che. She's in pain, she's in pain." Old Wu looked at Wu Che and his heart ached. She waved her finger. The sky was filled with voodoo insects. It quickly spread across the entire battlefield. The profound practitioners of the heaven and earth world had long been led by the world group and some large powerhouses away from the boundary of the battlefield. However, the voodoo insects did not retreat just because they left the battlefield. Instead, they quickly rushed towards the gates of the earth realm. Those voodoo insects, could it be that he wanted to swallow the entire land? Every profound practitioner's heart skipped a beat. Without me, these witchcraft Gu would have destroyed the entire earth domain. Venerable Wu had obviously given up. If it wasn't for me, that little blue dragon would definitely be dead. "Yiqing Luo, you have no right to negotiate with me. Release Che, or else." She hadn't finished her words. The people outside the battlefield screamed in panic, breaking the somber atmosphere of the battlefield. Chapter 4734. Yiqing Luo's figure suddenly stepped into the air. Wu Che's cheeks were empty. The tightness in her throat made her face pale as she groaned in pain. "Che." Elder Wu wanted to chase after her. Fiery red flames flashed past her eyes. The young lady was already standing firmly on the back of the vermilion bird. The colorful phoenix feathers were dotted with the burning flames. A slight touch. It was very possible that it could burn a person instantly. Without Tong Ziqing around, Yiqing Luo could totally let the flames engulf those witchcraft worms without any scruples. But the speed of the witchcraft worms' spread was too fast. The flames could at most burn the witchcraft worms on the battlefield. But towards the witchcraft worms that had already rushed towards the city gate, it had no effect. Yiqing Luo grabbed Wu Che's neck unhurriedly and looked down at Elder Wu. "Actually, no matter what choice you make today, there is only one answer. Wu Che must die." She tilted her head and smiled. No one could tell that she was still grabbing someone's neck and discussing his life and death. Her words were not without reason. Wu Che was in her hands. In order to balance Elder Wu, she naturally could not let Wu Che go. And on the other side, Gu Jingyu had obviously done something to Wu Che and could decide his life and death. If Elder Wu chose her words, Gu Jingyu would kill Wu Che directly. And if Elder Wu chose Gu Jingyu, she would also kill Wu Che directly. It was just a matter of who died in whose hands, the result would not change. You. Elder Wu obviously thought of the content of Yiqing Luo's unfinished words. Her expression was extremely ugly. His murky old eyes were completely red, almost about to collapse. The way she bared her teeth and glared at him made her originally hideous face look even more terrifying. Yiqing Luo, once something happens to Che, you will lose the support to threaten me. Elder Wu's words were filled with bone-chilling coldness. Yiqing Luo, do you believe that I will let the cultivators from the two realms and that little blue dragon be buried together with Che? Elder Wu originally thought that a young lady like Yiqing Luo, if he gave her a scare, she would naturally be moved. But he had not expected Yiqing Luo to be totally impervious to everything. Even when the sky was filled with witchgu insects, his expression did not change. Could it be, what other tricks does she have up her sleeve? No. Impossible. She was the only one who could solve the problem of witchcraft. Except for her. No one could save that blue dragon. Didn't Yiqing Luo care a lot about that blue dragon? How could he bear to let the blue dragon die with him? But, at this moment, a clear and cold voice suddenly rang out. Really? I may have to disappoint you. With us around, your so-called witchcraft will become useless. As the voice spread across the battlefield, it grew louder and louder. A few black figures descended from the sky. The person in the lead was a woman dressed in a rarely seen famous clan's attire. She had a dignified aura. Her slender eyebrows were filled with the bearing of a superior. When she appeared, the expression on Venerable Wu's face changed drastically. For a moment, he stood rooted to the ground in shock, not daring to utter a single word. And behind that woman were two old men dressed in the same style of attire. Beside that old man were a few familiar figures. When those few figures entered the world group's sight, everyone in the world group were so agitated that they almost jumped up. Shall we? Jin Zi. Instantly, it dispelled everyone's heavy mood because of the witchcraft insects. This book came from Chapter 4735. She clenched her slender fingers tightly and temporarily stopped tangling with the black-robed man as she commanded the scarlet flame to spit out raging flames. The raging flames had a purifying effect. As long as it was tainted with the evil chi of the Nether Palace or the witchcraft evil chi, it would be purified. The raging flames burned the ground. Those cultivators from both sides who were corroded by the goo worms were instantly burnt into ashes. Wails and screams were heard one after another. The goo worms on the ground also stopped wriggling under the burning of the open flames. It also gave the other cultivators who had not been corroded by the goo worms a chance to breathe. Ha! The black-robed man laughed softly when he saw this. Do you think you can stop me like this? The black-robed man didn't take the opportunity to approach her. Instead, he calmly stepped on the profound yin chi that gathered in the air. His sleeves moved. A blue figure suddenly flew out from the heaven realm and was sucked into the black-robed man's palm. The black-robed man lifted that person up as his lips curled into a cold and sinister arc. Yiqing Luo, I know your weakness too well now. Can you still continue to let your scarlet flame release its raging flames without any scruples? That figure that was lifted up high was reflected in Yiqing Luo's eyes. The action of commanding the scarlet flame to spit out raging flames suddenly stopped. Her eyes widened as the veins on her forehead popped out. Ziqing. The person who was pinched in the black-robed man's hand was Tong Ziqing. She was in a sorry state and was riddled with injuries as she hung in the black-robed man's hand. And there was fresh blood that flowed down her fingertips. What made Yiqing Luo's eyes widen as she bared her teeth in anger was Tong Ziqing's current state was like those beast puppets who were controlled by witchcraft. No. It was different. Those cultivators who were corroded by witchcraft only had endless killing and bloodthirst in their eyes. They were like wild beasts. As for Tong Ziqing, although her eyes were filled with a thick bloodthirsty aura, but her actions didn't look like a beast. But Tong Ziqing could feel the power from the witchcraft. If the raging flames continued to burn, the black-robed man threw Tong Ziqing into the fire. Tong Ziqing would also be burnt to ashes. Damn it. Yiqing Luo stopped the scarlet flame as her face turned slightly pale. She gritted her teeth and looked at the black-robed man. Release Ziqing. Ziqing followed Zhu Wuxin and disappeared. Yiqing Luo could more or less guess that Tong Ziqing could possibly be made use of by the secluded palace. However, there was still some hope in his heart. Unexpectedly, the secluded darkness palace finally caught Tong Ziqing. The blazing flames were extinguished, and the witchcraft and goo worms crawled around wantonly again. On the battlefield, screams rang out incessantly, "Madam D! Help! Help! Madam, save us, we don't want to die. Monarch madam, you can't kill all of us for a woman." Those people were begging for help in panic. To deal with these witchcraft goo worms, only Yiqing Luo's battle pet could do so. However, no matter how much they screamed at the top of their lungs, Yiqing Luo wasn't moved at all. Her icy cold eyes were fixated on the black-robed man without blinking. She could not ignore Tong Ziqing's life and death. Tong Ziqing was her brother. Everyone in the world group looked at Tong Ziqing and Yiqing Luo with complicated feelings. The world and righteousness, two difficult choices. No matter which side they chose, their hearts would be uneasy. Ah, Yiqing Luo, your weakness is that you are too easily controlled by others. The black-robed man looked at the miserable screams and curses below, looking at the young lady's solemn and cold look, as he couldn't help but laughed out loudly. Chapter 4736. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change as she continued to smile. "You're from the God realm and you may have lived for tens of thousands of years. I'm just a little lass from the Nirvana realm. Isn't it normal that I can't kill you?" She paused for a moment and her smile became nasty. "On the other hand, you, as a big shot of the God realm, you are helpless against a little girl from the Nirvana realm like me. Should I laugh at your incompetence, or should I laugh at your incompetence? Trying to provoke her with sarcasm?" Yiqing Luo scoffed softly, as a cold glint flickered in her long and narrow eyes. It was rare for the person behind the Dark Palace to appear personally. How could she let the people behind the scenes of the Nether Palace leave so easily? Seeing that the situation isn't right, you run away with your tail between your legs. The young girl's mocking laughter was filled with ridicule. The God world is only SOSO. The expression of Gu Jingyu became increasingly gloomy. Looking at Yiqing Luo's gaze, it was filled with viciousness. However, he quickly restrained himself. Her quiet and cold eyes were like a treacherous and cold eerie color. "Yiqing Luo, you don't need to use words to provoke me." Gu Jingyu sneered. "Now is just the beginning. Next is the real beginning of the game." Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly. Her long and narrow eyes were cold and gloomy. She moved her hand and the glowing fan, which was as blazing as fire, spun on her fingertips, giving off a dazzling light. Boundless dark force was released from his body. She did not hesitate in the slightest. He leaped and attacked Gu Jingyu. "But I don't intend to give you the chance to continue playing." The girl's cold voice revealed a hint of ruthlessness. The power of the divine artifact and the dark force intertwined. The young girl's aura seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth. Gu Jingyu was slightly stunned. The young girl's aura was like a rainbow, and her profound waves were sharp and fierce. The attack and speed caused him to frown and dodge to the side. At the bottom of his heart, he was extremely shocked by this earth-shattering change of the young girl. Unexpectedly, Yiqing Luo's adaptability was also this strong. He had just leveled up not long ago. He had almost overloaded his body due to the advancement of his profound strength. At that moment he had fused that power with his body. Moreover, he was extremely proficient in using it. On top of that, the power of the divine artifact on her body had been strengthened. No matter how unwilling Gu Jingyu was to admit it, they had to admit it. The current Yiqing Luo. Indeed, he was strong enough to fight with him. Yiqing Luo's attacks became even more ferocious. It was obvious that he was going all out to subdue the person behind the Palace of Darkness. Gu Jingyu wanted to leave, but Yiqing Luo was clinging onto him tightly, totally not giving him a chance to leave. Two figures were fighting each other in the dense forest. The sky was dark. He could not see it clearly at all. Profound lights flickered as a majestic aura spread across the battlefield. The commotion caused by the battle between the two sides naturally attracted the attention of the group of people on the battlefield nearby. When Yiqing Luo and Gu Jingyu were crossing hands on the battlefield, with the appearance of the witchcraft family, Venerable Wu had no room to retaliate. Or perhaps, she had no intention of resisting. Back then, when she was chased out of the witchcraft family, she kept saying how much she hated the witchcraft family. But after so many years, after seeing the witchcraft family for real, how could she really maintain her pride? When the witchcraft family's people used the iron chains to restrain Venerable Wu, he had no intention of struggling or resisting. This book came from And, our brothers in the world group. When the regiment commander was so young, he was poisoned with the heart-devouring goo. He had become a puppet of the Palace of Darkness, standing on the opposite side of them. And Ziqing. Earlier on, Ziqing had nearly injured the brothers of the world group. All of this was caused by old Wu. What qualifications did the people of the witchcraft family have to snatch people from their hands? When Yan Shaoyi looked up again, the corners of her mouth curled into a mocking sneer. So, since the people from the Wu Gu family have acknowledged the identity of Elder Wu and Wu Gu, then, don't you plan to clean up the mess they created? Not only they're the world group. There were also quite a number of witchcraft Gu that had already scurried towards the cities in the Earth domain. Apart from the Miaogu aristocratic family, only the witchcraft aristocratic family could help. This book comes from Chapter 4738. The few people from the witchcraft family's expressions didn't change. But looking at the battlefield, the stench of the witchcraft insects and the thick stench of blood made one feel nauseous. They knew very well. What did old Wu use the witchcraft insects to do? Miao Xianxian took the chance and said, Miao Gu family informed the witchcraft family about this matter because only you can solve this matter. The few people from the witchcraft family remained silent for a moment. Before they could open their mouths, they heard the world group side giving out a cry of shock. Quickly look over there. Everyone looked towards the direction of the voice. Not far from the battlefield, there was a deafening explosion of profound light. Yan Shaoyi's expression congealed. Not good. Earlier Qing Luo went over there. Did something happen? The world group exchanged glances. Following that, they quickly chased towards the direction of the dense forest. After a series of intimidating exchanges of profound energy, Yi Zichen's expression changed drastically. Gu Jingyu's expression turned increasingly grave. At this moment, not only were they shocked by Yi Qing Luo's acceptance towards profound energy cultivation, they were even more shocked that the young lady could use the god relic's energy so flexibly. Originally indifferent, she was gradually forced to be more serious. Both their palms collided. They retreated in unison. The entire forest trees were uprooted as the sky was filled with dust and soil. Yi Qing Luo stabilized her footsteps as the glower flame fan on her fingertips spun one round in her palm. Gu Jingyu also stopped his retreating footsteps as he slightly raised his eyes to look at her. In the depths of his eyes, there was a sinister aura that could not be seen clearly. Do you think that by killing me, you will be able to save that little blue dragon of yours? He sneered in disdain as he casually brushed away the fallen leaves on his body from the battle with Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's actions took a pause as her expression turned stern. Looks like your energy has been exhausted? Gu Jingyu's brows sunk slightly as a vicious aura grew. Yi Qing Luo naturally didn't miss out on this detail. Her slender eyes lifted up and as the glint flickered, her lips curled into a bloodthirsty sneer. His expression had already explained everything. The appearance of the mastermind from the secluded palace had always made Yi Qing Luo suspicious. The mastermind from the secluded palace would basically not appear personally. But this time, they actually borrowed Gu Jingyu's body. This clearly meant that the person behind the scenes of the dark secluded palace was affected or had problems with his body. Furthermore, the way the mastermind of the Dark Ghost Palace used Gu Jingyu's body would greatly affect the mastermind of the Dark Ghost Palace. For example, the body is out of control. Furthermore, his own strength was not stable. After all, the mastermind of the Gloomy Palace did not possess Gu Jingyu's body. Through other mediums or consciousness. At this moment, it was the best way to control the people behind the Dark Palace. Even if it was just a wisp of consciousness or some other kind of power. That was very possible. Following this power, he had found the body of the person behind the scenes of the Dark Palace. This was the best time to destroy the person behind the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly as her figure once again headed towards the direction of Gu Jingyu. Her slender white fingers streaked across the azure dew bracelet on her wrist. There was a cold glint in his eyes. The azure dew bracelet began to glow with a scorching red light. A strand of profound energy was injected into Yi Qing Luo's glabella. Yi Qing Luo's profound energy suddenly exploded. His figure quickly approached Gu Jingyu. The instantaneous attack was so swift that no one could react in time. Gu Jingyu was just about to regain his senses. The young lady's icy cold fingers had already locked onto his neck. This book came from Chapter 4740. After the battle, he heaved a sigh of relief. The brothers of the world group could finally crack a few jokes. Yiqing Luo unhappily pushed Gu Jingyu, who was leaning on her, towards Qiao Jin's side. Quickly catch him. Qiao Jin joked, but his body was honest. He walked over and took Gu Jingyu. The group of powerhouses following behind the world group had a huge change in expression when they saw Gu Jingyu. Emperor Madam, he is the palace lord of Gloomy Palace. He must be handed over to City Lord Xiao to be executed. The people of the major forces looked at Gu Jingyu with murderous eyes. It was as if he wanted to tear him into pieces. How could he not be angry? To the profound practitioners of the Earth realm, Gu Jingyu was the main culprit who almost caused the land to be destroyed. Because of Gu Jingyu, they had lost their families, comrades, and friends. If it wasn't for the fact that Yiqing Luo's attitude towards Gu Jingyu was unclear, he was afraid that the people from the major forces would have already rushed forward and torn Gu Jingyu into pieces. Madam, this person is the culprit who harmed our realm and reduced it to its current state. We must hand him over to City Lord Xiao to give everyone an explanation. He killed so many of our brothers. Also, the war between the heaven and earth realms was started by him. The people of the major forces were very excited. Their eyes were bloodshot. The world group immediately blocked in front of Yiqing Luo. His expression was cold as he looked at the people from the major forces with vigilance. Hearing the crowd raising their arms and cheering, Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change much. She just leaned against a tree and had no intention of handing Gu Jingyu over. She said in a faint voice, I caught him. Do you think I can hand him over just because you say so? If you're so capable, why don't you catch them yourself? The people of the major forces immediately choked on their words. The young girl tilted her head, her long and narrow eyes slightly curved, revealing a bit of coldness. I caught him, how I want to deal with him is my business. She looked towards the world group and waved her hand. Let's go back to the Qiao residence. She stood up and was about to walk forward. As soon as he exerted force on his feet, a wave of dizziness surged into his head. Yiqing Luo only felt her vision turning black. He lost consciousness uncontrollably. Before he fainted, Yiqing Luo's only thought was, Motherf asterisk her. It was a rare chance for him to act tough, but before he could finish he had already collapsed. Did she not care about her pride? By the time Yiqing Luo opened her eyes again, she was already in the Qiao mansion on her bed. Yan Shaoyi stood guard at the side. Hearing the commotion, he immediately stood up and looked over. Seeing that Yiqing Luo had indeed opened her eyes, she brought over a cup of water and passed it to the young lady. Blood-bone barbaric king had come over to take a look and you're fine. It's just that your profound energy and physical strength had been overdrawn, resulting in your body not being able to take it, so you collapsed. Yan Shaoyi's tone was indifferent. However, he could hear the displeasure in her voice. Yiqing Luo drank a glass of water and her throat felt slightly better. She put on a smile and said softly, I know I shouldn't force myself. I was wrong, okay? You're not wrong. How could you be wrong? Yan Shaoyi put down the cup and sneered, it's not the first time you've done this. Anyway, the overlord isn't here and none of us can control you. Yiqing Luo laughed softly. Her fair little hand held Yan Shaoyi's hand and held it gently in her palm. Under that kind of situation, I had no other choice. Moreover, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to face Gu Jingyu. Chapter 47-41. She drooped her eyelids. Her curly eyelashes were thick and long, casting a fan-shaped shadow on her eyelids. Looking at Yiqing Luo in this state, Yan Shaoyi was feeling angry. She couldn't say anything. She held Yiqing Luo's hand and sat by the bedside. Do you know how dangerous it is for you to do this? You're lucky that your profound energy didn't burst out and explode to your death. Yiqing Luo's other hand pinched Yan Shaoyi's face. You know, no matter what decision I make, I will absolutely not do it on impulse. I don't want to die. The anger in Yan Shaoyi's heart completely dissipated from her pinching. She grabbed the hand on her face and brushed it away. Don't lie down since you're awake. If you're any later, I'm afraid young sect Master Gu won't be able to survive. Yiqing Luo's smiling brows instantly congealed. Those people still want to make an issue out of Gu Jingyu? Previously, in the forest of the battlefield, she had already made her words very clear. Those people actually had the audacity to have designs on Gu Jingyu? He is after all the palace lord of secluded palace on the surface. In everyone's eyes, he is the real culprit who started this war. Yan Shaoyi explained, in this war both sides suffered heavy losses. Can be said that in the next 50 years, The two realms will not have the ability to raise their battle flags. To everyone, Gu Jingyu was the enemy who killed their parents and relatives. He was the one who destroyed their family. How could they possibly dispel their hatred just because of a few sentences from Yiqing Luo? Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. How long have I been unconscious for? Where is Gu Jingyu? Not long, just 1 day and 1 night. Yan Xiaoyi replied, now that City Lord Xiao is protecting Gu Jingyu, no one will act recklessly at this critical juncture, but... She paused for a moment. The heaven and earth realms war had been burning for several days, and because of a common goal, they stopped fighting. So, City Lord Xiao has set up a simple banquet in Xiao residence to discuss with everyone regarding this war. Speaking of this, Yan Xiaoyi's brows creased slightly. I reckon those people will ask City Lord Xiao for young sect Master Gu during the banquet. Yiqing Luo lifted the blanket and got off the bed. Let's go take a look. This was a great war between the heaven and earth world. It started inexplicably. Now it had come to an inexplicable end. All the profounders and powers were still in a dazed state even when they sat face to face. Just a moment ago, both sides were fighting to the death. The next moment they were sitting face to face, drinking and chatting. This change really made it hard for people to keep up with it. I'm afraid, this was the first time something like this had happened since ancient times, right? In the garden behind the Qiao mansion there was an outdoor banquet. The representatives of the major forces in the world filled the entire banquet. At a glance there were at least 50 people. The entire garden was in an uproar as people discussed spiritedly. The people of the major forces were chatting with each other about the upcoming war. It could be considered harmonious. After 3 rounds of drinking, City Lord Xiao, although the palace master of the Palace of Darkness is Lady D's captive, we are the ones who have a deep grudge against the Palace of Darkness. Someone from the Heaven Realm said with an unfriendly expression. City Lord Xiao, please hand over the Palace Master of Secluded Darkness Palace to us. As soon as he said that, the noisy and enthusiastic banquet instantly quietened down. All of them looked towards City Lord Xiao, as though they were trying to probe his expression after he heard this sentence. Chapter 47-42. City Lord Xiao slowly put down the wine cup in his hand as his dignified face sunk slightly. That pair of eyes which had been through the vicissitudes of life was extremely sharp. Just one look was enough to make the atmosphere of the banquet turn heavy. Even the various powerhouses in Heaven Realm kept quiet as they were stunned by this gaze. The Palace Lord of the Secluded Palace is not in my hands. City Lord Xiao opened his mouth and his voice was cold and dignified as he said each word. As for the transactions and topics regarding the war between the two realms, if I can help, I will definitely do so. But... His gaze slowly swept past those people who were jeering as he repeated, but if all of you want the Palace Lord of the Secluded Palace, there's nothing I can do. Gu Jingyu was brought away by that bunch of youngsters from the World Group. All these were actually very clear to everyone present. They were also very clear that if those youngsters didn't have Yiqing Luo's orders, they would absolutely not hand Gu Jingyu over. Could it be that they could snatch him? It was impossible to snatch him away. During the war between the two realms, they had all witnessed that these seemingly young youngsters were actually very powerful. If they had to snatch him away, not only would they suffer heavy losses, they would also publicly become enemies with Imperial Madam. They must be silly to do such a stupid thing. Hence, someone suggested, Imperial Madam and City Lord Xiao are on good terms. If City Lord Xiao were to speak to Imperial Madam, I believe Imperial Madam would definitely hand over the Palace Lord of the Secluded Palace. These words were indeed a little too forceful. But other than this they had no other way. City Lord Xiao couldn't help but laugh when he heard that. That solemn and dignified face, even though he was smiling, it was filled with a terrifying murderous aura. What a good plan you all have, to let me be the one to stand out and serve you. He slammed the table fiercely as he stood up. This City Lord sincerely invited Imperial Madam over to help. After Imperial Madam resolved the war between the heaven and earth two realms, now you want this City Lord to repay kindness with enmity and be ungrateful? This slap on the table shook the entire banquet as it instantly turned silent. Everyone's gazes congregated onto City Lord Xiao. Silence for a while. The people from the Heaven Realm said with a dark expression, City Lord Xiao, even if that's the case, the crime of the Palace Master of Secluded Darkness Palace is an undeniable fact. Now that we are in the land, if we want an explanation, we naturally have to ask you, the person in charge of the land. This person's voice was firm and powerful. His tone was also a little sinister. It was as if he was suppressing too much anger. City Lord Xiao looked over. He clashed with that person. He was about to speak. Suddenly, a clear voice came from afar. If you want an explanation, just look for me. Why make things difficult for City Lord Xiao? The girl's voice was clear and pleasing to the ears. It was very soft, but it easily suppressed all the voices in the hall. Outside the garden, a girl in a fiery red dress slowly walked over. The girl's black hair was not tied up, so it casually and lazily scattered behind her, like a waterfall pouring down in torrents. But even with such a simple outfit, amidst the flowers, it was still dazzling, causing everything around it to lose its splendor. Yiqing Luo slowly walked towards that person from Heaven Realm. Her footsteps were steady and calm like a lotus. Step by step, it was like a heavy beating drum, pounding on that person's heart from Heaven Realm. Under this oppressive aura, that person subconsciously took 2 steps back. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up as her long and narrow eyes rose. Whatever you need me to explain, just tell me. She casually brushed her sleeves. Exquisite side profile, noble and elegant, her temperament was out of this world. TXT 2016 website, over 100,000 mobile phone can directly download TXT. Chapter 47-43. The person is in my hands. Yiqing Luo continued calmly, there's no use asking City Lord Xiao, why don't you ask me directly? The man from the Heaven Realm paled slightly, but he seemed to have thought of something. He clenched his fists tightly and said word by word, then Madam Emperor, please hand over the palace lord of the secluded palace. No. The girl's answer was straightforward and decisive. The expression of the person from the Heaven Domain changed again. Our Heaven Domain has lost many elites, relatives and comrades because of the Palace of Seclusion. It is the same for the Land Domain. Shouldn't Tenyu Palace give us an explanation? Are you going to protect Tenyu Palace? His voice paused slightly. His eyes became much sharper as he said word by word, or perhaps you and the Palace of Gloomy Shadows were originally in cahoots. Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly as her expression didn't change as she smiled. What have those losses got to do with me? Back then, didn't you choose to join the Ren family and attack the land because of the ambitions of the Netherworld Palace? This is your own choice. Who can you blame? You chose war, so don't blame the war for causing you to lose your loved ones or comrades. This is your own choice, so you should pay the price for your choice. The girl's voice carried a bit of ridicule. Just because I saved all of you, I have to bear the consequences of your choices? What? She questioned him word by word. Soon after, he sneered and said, just because your faces are big? The people from Heaven Realm were so humiliated by Yiqing Luo's words that they couldn't say a single word. She was angry, annoyed, and embarrassed. But when he met the young girl's eyes, which were as clear as water, he didn't even dare to say a word. Yiqing Luo's eyes were curved, obviously smiling. However, the words that came out of his mouth were incomparably sinister. I have no obligation to care about your feelings. The palace master of the secluded Darkness Palace was captured by me. How you want to deal with him is my problem. If you don't like it, you can ask me with your strength. That arrogant and confident look. It was as if it was not afraid of anything in the world. He also did not care that the people of the Heaven Realm would join forces to counterattack. Counterattack my ass. In that great battle, the people from the Palace of Gloomy Darkness came one after another. Only Yiqing Luo was able to go against the secluded palace. They can snatch things from Yiqing Luo, not to mention it was said that within Yiqing Luo's body, there was a divine phoenix profound jade heart. That's a talent that's out of the ordinary. The people from the Heaven Realm could only grit their teeth and did not speak again. Yiqing Luo's appearance lowered the atmosphere of the banquet by another degree. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about everyone's feelings. She walked towards the World Group's position. Because the World Group's performance in this battle was extremely outstanding. Although he wasn't too interested in this kind of banquet, but for Qiao Yinyan's sake, there were also 20 to 30 people here. Qiao Jin and Mo Ying were the leaders. It was about Gu Jingyu. At the banquet, no one dared to mention it again. Yiqing Luo and City Lord Xiao exchanged a few words and changed the topic. The people from the Earth Domain calmed down the atmosphere again. In this battle, the Earth Realm had also suffered great losses. However, compared to Heaven Realm this time, it could be said that the Earth Domain had undergone a qualitative change. Between the Earth Realm and Heaven Realm, they were originally separated by tens of thousands of miles. And this battle caused the status of the Earth Realm to soar. It could almost be said that it was on par with the Heaven Realm. Yiqing Luo ignored everyone's compliments. Sitting on her own seat, she chatted with the Brothers of the World group. This chapter end viewing starting event Zue new chapter section please arrive Tang Ke shop. Mobile address. However, the voodoo insects did not retreat just because they left the battlefield. Instead, they quickly rushed towards the gates of the Earth realm. The voodoo bugs. Could it be that it wanted to swallow the entire land? Every profound practitioner's heart skipped a beat. Without me, these voodoo insects would have destroyed the entire Earth domain. Venerable Voodoo had obviously given up. If it wasn't for me, that little blue dragon would definitely die. Yiqing Luo, you don't have the right to negotiate with me. Let go of Che, or otherwise, she didn't finish her sentence. The terrified screams of the people outside the battlefield broke the somber atmosphere of the battlefield. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes squinted slightly as her pink lips curled into a ridiculing cold arc. But you're even less qualified to threaten me. This chapter end viewing starting event Zue new chapter section please arrive Tang Ke shop. Mobile address. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.